All right, we're recording now. So how many of you guys have used Premiere for video editing before? 1, 0 else? Wonderful. How many of you have used other video editing software before? Little bit, and mostly no experience. Okay, so one of the coolest things about the way we're going to learn Premiere is that what we just learned, everything we've just learned about Photoshop really works in the same general context, except Premiere is all those same concepts, right? Images, layers, videos, plus time, right? Things change over time, and so we start to be able to manipulate with that. Now, here's one of the things I want to touch on. In the same way that Photoshop had a great built-in learn system, Premiere has a great built-in learn system as well. We're not going to spend a bunch of time on this in class, but I do want to walk through just with you how to use it and make sure that you guys can use these outside of class. But every day of class, we're going to be working on a project. We're going to download our files today. We're going to start shopping and learning how to edit them together, how to navigate Premiere quickly and using keyboard shortcuts like a professional. But ultimately, go ahead and just click on that in-app tutorials just so you can see. And let's just go through this one little 2-minute Premiere Pro overview together so that everybody knows how to navigate that. Okay, all right, so with this open, you can see the simple process. Let's just go through these first things. We're going to take 2 minutes because after this, I'm going to assume if you need to go back through any of these, you will go back through them on your own time. I will be teaching you all of the fastest ways to do all of these things using keyboard shortcuts. So for now, let's just look through it. Right now, it shows that we've got these 4 primary panels here in Premiere. Go ahead and click to each one of them, and then I want you to access them with a keyboard shortcut, Shift 1, 2, 3, and 4. So go through and keep that left thumb on the Command key, but now try it with Shift 1, Shift 2, Shift 3, and Shift 4. Everybody cycle through that using that left hand. When you get to the practical, you will have to be able to do this with your keyboard shortcuts. So you do want to practice this right now with keyboard shortcuts. You don't want to try to memorize them all and build a bunch of muscle memory after the fact. So Shift 1, 2, 3, and 4. These 4 areas are really straightforward in terms of what they do. First, the project window is going to be where we stick all of our files, our clips, our video, our audio, our images, anything we want to end up in the video will start in the project area. The timeline, we will make a timeline where we lay out all of our video and audio clips into tracks, which then we'll be able to play back. When we do that, that will play back those visuals in the program monitor. The program monitor is where we'll see whatever is being played back here on the timeline, and the source monitor is where we can load clips in to adjust them, to make changes, to add effects. But anything that we need to add in either from the project or the timeline, we can double click and load it here into the source. So we can read through those, click next. It notes that we can adjust panels. We can adjust our sizes, just like we kind of saw in Photoshop. You can rearrange things easily by dragging panels around or resizing them. Go ahead and make some adjustments real quick. Click and drag around, resize those panels. Good, how you doing so far? Awesome, now let's do one more thing. Take note that every one of these panels actually has, you can tell it's a panel because in the upper left-hand corner, you're gonna have the name of the panel plus the little hamburger menu, the little 3 slashes that lets you do things like close the panel, undock the panel, etc. Go ahead and undock a panel so it pops out and is floating around as a floating window. Yes, sir, Jake. Okay, don't worry about it. We'll just do a new one. So that is weird, though. You could try restarting the computer, but for now, that's no bueno. You'll be able to make sure you can just open up and do a new project in Premiere, and then you could just follow along with us. All right, so now how many of you have had this experience? Who's ever watched a tutorial online, YouTube, etc., to learn a piece of software? No? Okay, most people have. You've used something because you used them for Photoshop. Come on, like, don't tell me you don't remember that a couple weeks ago. So we've all used tutorials, and we've all had the experience of when we're working in the software, they go through, they're showing you how to do stuff, you're following along, and all of a sudden you get to a certain point where they click some button, the magic happens, but you don't have that button. Who's ever had that happen? You don't have the button, or the window's in a different place, or something is closed and you don't know how to do it, right? So that can happen very easily in all of the Adobe software. In fact, I want you to just go through, click on some of these and drag them to the wrong area. So all of a sudden you see that you can put multiple panels together in a single panel together, multiple windows in a single panel. Go click through that. Just click and drag any of them around to a different area, and you'll see that you've got this ability to manipulate where they behave and where they end up. So you can resize, rearrange. It's a quick way to drive yourself crazy, because quickly nothing will be where you expect it to be. Still with me? All right, now, under the window menu, we have this concept of workspaces. Workspaces are simply arrangements of panels and windows so that you're optimized for doing certain types of work. So for example, click on all panels. It just opens up every possible panel in the entire thing. You can click on them. You notice over here on the side, there's a million panels now. Every one of the panels is opened up. Up here in the source window, we've got effects and the scopes. So notice that in my opinion, they could do a better job of visually separating out that these are different panels and not just a row of text on the top. But that is how you recognize what's going on there. And if you click through any of those, it just takes you farther and farther into all the panels that they've stuck in there. You can also click this little downward pointing arrow and see the different options, so you could get back to the source panel, etc. Everybody go and load that up just for kicks. Now the one we're going to use most of the time is the workspaces editing. It has a shortcut assigned, Option-Shift-7. So the editing workspace will end us back up over here in our editing workspace. But how many of you clicked on editing and it doesn't look like mine did? Yeah, it doesn't look quite like mine does. So what we want to do is have this procedure like ingrained in our head. Under the window menu, workspaces, reset to saved layout. When you've got that option, reset to saved layout, or Option-Shift-0, Option-Shift-0 is going to reset to a saved layout. So I'm going to go to Window, Workspaces, Editing, and Window, Workspaces, Reset to Saved Layout. And that should get us back to all looking at the same timeline with the same windows in the same place. Everybody with me okay there? Good. Okay, so get back to this place. So that is what you can do in the learning section. The learning section, I could do the same thing. Window, reset to save layout, and that way everything is going to go back to the way it was from what we were looking at in learning. Okay, that's how you can go through and quickly do all these, learn the basics, walk through the tutorials. So any time you're struggling with this, we're going to go through every one of these things in class, but if you just want to go back through at your own pace, click along, you can use that learning section to go through and refresh all the basics, or even learn some of the techniques that we might not get to here in class. All right, so everybody with me still so far? Sweet. So let's go ahead and we want to do a File, New Project. So File, New Project, right up at the top, it's going to ask us to name this project, and then we want to save it into a certain place or location. So when I click on the Browse menu, it's letting me go and determine where it wants to save this project. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to cancel everything out of here real quick. And let's just practice quitting out of Premiere. If I was done with something, how would I quit Premiere? Command Q. Go ahead and quit it for me just because, and you'll see why in just a second. After you've done that, switch over to the course schedule, and let's download our footage and start working through this project. Okay, everybody's getting the course schedule open. Navigate quickly to the course schedule. And I hope you have your hard drives today. That will enable you to keep your work with you and plugged in, and we can save all of our work to it. If you don't have your work with you today, or you don't have your hard drive, you can certainly save it to your internal drive here on the lab computers. But for those that do have their hard drives, go ahead and plug them into the computer. If you're working externally at home or with on a computer at home, we want to make sure we've got a place to save our files to. So go ahead and plug those things in. And you'll want to come in and have those plugged in first thing every day for the rest of this class. All right, giving everybody a second to get that up and running. All right, once you've got your external hard drive plugged in, the first thing we should do if you're brand new to this is to format that hard drive. Is anyone plugging theirs in for the first time right now? Awesome. So we want to format that hard drive. Let's use Spotlight. Spotlight, what's the shortcut? Command spacebar and type DISK, disk utility. That's what we're looking for, and we want to open up disk utility in order to format our hard drives. Disk utility, and open her up. DISK, not DISC. I know, two completely appropriate ways to spell it, but it doesn't work. All right, in this case, you should see your hard drives appearing, including anything labeled as external. You're going to want to select that hard drive and come up to Erase and click Erase. Now, assuming that you're using these on Macs only, we're going to format them for Mac. Now, I don't want to erase mine, but we're going to come here and go ahead and give it a name. Nathan's SSD in this case. And the format you're going to choose is macOS Extended Journaled. We do not want to use something case sensitive. That tends to just add problems. MS-DOS FAT is an ancient file standard that we used to use a long time ago, but it also is technically readable by Mac and Windows, but it would not be good for doing large file media production. And exFAT is a new type of format that works reasonably well with Mac and Windows. It can actually be read by both setups, but in our case, you're going to get the best performance by just going with Extended Journaled and clicking Erase. Go ahead and click Erase on that, and that will erase your hard drive, and you should see it after about 20 seconds reappear on your desktop, ready for editing. Once it is, you're ready for the next step. Go ahead and open up Project 2 files. I've got them linked beside every day of class for the next couple of days. So click on Project 2 files, and I'm going to open that up. I have to use an incognito window so it looks the same, but I want to go ahead and download all of this content. In general, you'll want to have downloaded this ahead of time, but if we download it all, I'm going to download, and I want to save all of it to a single place on my external hard drive. So make yourself a folder, call it 1450 Project 2, and go ahead and download that entire thing. Looking around the room. Is anyone struggling or having any issues? Raise a hand. I'll come to you. Good. Once you've got that, it should have downloaded over into a single zip file. We want to open that up, which will dump out the contents of this project ready to go. All right, looking around the room. Everybody got their files downloaded? Anyone's not have it? Okay, here's what we want. That zip file, when we double-clicked it, it unzipped our download. And that has all of the things that we need for this project: our instructions, a sample video, some drone footage, and our common media folder. Remember, we used that here on Project 1 with a copy of our common media in it. And so the thing is, I want to make that my project folder. So I'm going to pull this common media folder over up to the higher level, because I'm going to make that ultimately my project folder. So go ahead and drag it out, because we're going to put all these other things into the common media folder in some place. So I personally like to go ahead and just open up 2 different windows so I can go through and move stuff easily between them. So I'm going to come to my common media folder, right click on it, and say open it up in a new tab. And then I'll just bust it out by clicking and dragging down on it until it's in its own little window. Or you could just go open it up in another window any way you like. Good, everybody with me? Sweet, let's go ahead and move all of the stuff into the correct folder for it. So how about our video editing instructions? Which of the common media folders would that go into? The instructions file would go into? What do you think, Jamie? Looking at those options? Could, but actually it's not a project file. Project files will be the Premiere Pro project files, where the actual project lives. This one is a Word doc, so we'd probably put it into production paperwork. Yeah, so I'm going to stick that one over in production paperwork. Then we have artist photos. Okay, so photos are useful. I'm going to go ahead and put those where? Photos will end up in... Anybody? Oriana? No, Oriana. Somebody else. Where would I put photos of these options? Which one? Graphic sources. I'm going to put it over in graphic sources. Great. How about the drone footage? So this is a bunch of movie files, video files. Where would I put those? Could be. In this case, it's actually the footage that we have shot for this project, so it'll go in Capture Scratch. Capture Scratch is our main video storage thing, wherever we've captured stuff, whatever we've captured. These are not stock videos, but if we downloaded some from a website, you're right. Yes, we would have put them in stock footage. All right, logos. Logos are going to go where? Also into graphic sources. Those are also images, so I'm going to put those into graphic sources. Music options, looks like I've got a few in here. I'm going to put those into my audio sources, and same with my voiceovers. Voiceovers, go ahead and put that into the audio sources. And then finally, I have this sample Rock the Vote video. I'm going to go ahead and drag that into final exported video files, or final exported files, just so it's living someplace. This is a sample project that we can see what it looks like. All right, now I'm going to hit play, and let's take a look at a simple sample project that was done using the same content and see what sort of things that we do in it, and see how you're going to use the same techniques to create your own version.
Welcome to Rock the Vote at Belmont University, where Nashville colleges are uniting to celebrate democracy. With performers from Tennessee State University, spoken word artist Summer Jade, from Middle Tennessee State University, Shelter Cove, from Fisk University, R&B singer-songwriter Lauren McClinton, from Vanderbilt University, a cappella group The Melodors, and student performer from Belmont University, indie rock and pop artist Annie DeRusso. And Belmont alumni performances from special guest Gren Joy and headliners Moon Taxi. With a special thanks to our presenting sponsor, Ryman Hospitality Properties, and event partner, Rock the Vote. And now, a few words from Belmont President Bob Fisher.
All right. So it's a real quick, real simple intro that you might see at the front of one of the Curb Event Center things, talking about some sort of promo. It's got a bunch of very simple elements.
Welcome to...
It's got some really attractive drone footage kind of moving around these beautiful buildings. We've got things like graphics, logos embedded into the visual. We've got other graphics that appear and disappear at different times in the video. We've got edits that are timed to the beat when we listen to it, and we watch when those edits occur.
Rock the vote at Belmont University, where Nashville colleges are uniting to celebrate democracy. With performers from Tennessee State University, spoken word artist.
We've got other visuals where we bring up the artist's visual, but also we bring up a text title that we have added to be able to highlight who they are, but also what happened to the background, what happened to the visual as this was playing through.
Tennessee State University, spoken word.
What happened to it? It blurred out. So the whole visual, while still moving, you can still see the videos happening.
Artist, Summer.
But we utilized that blur, kind of like we looked at in Photoshop, because it de-emphasized it, and yet it still creates some movement there so that we can have kind of an interesting moving visual. So it adds depth to our image, and we still see Summer Jade. What about something like this? In this case,
are uniting to celebrate democracy.
In this case, we had this composite shot of 4 different images pop up on the screen. Not just images, they're all moving video files. So we can see Fisk and Vanderbilt and Tennessee State and Middle Tennessee State, and they all popped up. And in addition, they also popped up to the beat. So as we're looking at Belmont here, you can see it happen.
Uniting to celebrate democracy. With performers from Tennessee State University, spoken word artist Summer Jade, from Middle Tennessee State University, Shelter Cove, from Fisk University, R&B singer-songwriter Lauren McClinton, from Vanderbilt University, a cappella group The Melodors, and student performer from Belmont University, indie rock and pop artist Annie DeRusso. And Belmont alumni performances from special guest Bryn.
So you can see those are the main ingredients that if we know how to do all of those capably and quickly, then we can create any number of variations on this video, and that's a very common thing for somebody to be hired to do. So now that we've got all of these things in here, what I want to do is go ahead and create a new project, and then we're going to save that new project in Premiere Pro into this project files folder. So what I do want to do is go ahead and come up to where it's named Common Media folder, and I do want to go ahead and rename this for my project, 1450, 1450, dash last name, dash first name, dash project, dash 2. And I can go ahead and delete those other files so I don't have to worry about them. All right, once we have got that done, quit out of this. Let's go ahead and relaunch Premiere Pro. And that should come up. Make sure, Jordan, you missed it, but you're launching Premiere 2019. Make sure you launch Premiere 2020. You can go ahead and quit that one and jump the other one open. All right. Once Premiere is up, give me a thumbs up and we'll move ahead. On the screen, everybody. Laura, Mia, I don't know if that's a thumbs up or not. Awesome. Okay, so let's do a new project, and it's going to ask us where do we want to save it. I'm going to click here into the name category and go ahead and give it the same name, 1450 dash last name dash first name dash project dash 2, and then I'm going to click the browse button. Once you've got that done, let's navigate to wherever we stored this, 1450 Project 2, and I want to save this project into the project files. The project files is the actual media projects that we want to save, so I'm going to double click in that, make sure that I'm saving into project files, and hit choose, and that's going to put me right here, ready to go. I can hit OK, and that's going to get me into my Premiere project. Looking around the room, throw me a thumbs up when you're good to go. Awesome. Michael, Ashley, you guys okay? All right, sweet. Command Tab back over to the Finder, and let's look at which things we need to bring in here. For example, I'm pretty sure we need my Capture Scratch folder, In Premiere, to create or add files, we can either come down to this little project window and double click, which will open up our project import window, or you can simply grab a whole folder and drag and drop it right here onto this import media to start. So let's do it both ways. I'm going to drag and drop it down here until it turns into a hand with a little S. Let go. Give it a second while it's spinning pinwheels of death, and then boom, it'll drop it in as a whole folder. So everybody should be able to get that in. Now, we are seeing this as an icon, and I'd rather see this as a list view, right? We've gone through and we've seen this multiple different ways. We saw it in the Word or in the Mac operating system, but I want to go ahead and switch it into list view. Let's import the others a slightly different way. Double click on this area, and that will open up your same import dialog box, and it should open it up wherever your project is saved. So you don't have to go hunting, it's just going to put it in the right place. I'm going to select my graphic sources because I know that has a couple of different things I need. How about my audio sources? Do I need that too? Yep, so I'll hold the command key down and click on audio sources, and that will work. I don't think I need production paperwork because I don't need the Word document in here. I don't need the final exported file, and I don't think I have anything else. So I've got Capture Scratch already, so I'm going to select graphic sources, hold down command, click on audio sources where the other files are, and I can hit return, and that will import all of them into my main folder. Throw me a thumbs up whenever you've got it, and we'll move ahead. Looking around, is Premiere crashing on you still?
No, I restarted the computer and it fixed it.
Sweet. All right. Now, Command Tab back over to your production paperwork, and let's go open up these instructions for Project 2. All right. So it says the client wants a 1-minute video. I don't know why this says Project 1. It should be Project 2. Project 2. Goodness. The client wants a 1-minute video for their National Rock the Vote live stream from Belmont. They need an upbeat, less than 1-minute version to open the live stream. The project brief says to choose upbeat music that college students would enjoy, use fast musical cuts, transitions, and titles, color correct the finished product to look like the newest social media filters, and upload a finished version as a 720p H.264 file along with a screenshot of your edit and the Premiere Pro project file. Okay, simple, straightforward, pretty clear. So what's it say? Download the Project 2 footage and the common media folder from the link. Organize it and move the media into the appropriate folders. Create a new Premiere Pro project named 1450 last name, first name Project 2, and store the Premiere Pro project in the project files subfolder. If you've already done that, we're through step 1. Everybody feeling good? All right, we've imported the folders into our Premiere project, and now we need to create a new sequence using a sequence preset. So let's go ahead and Command Tab back over to Premiere and look at how we make a new sequence. There's a couple of different ways. Number one, I'm going to teach you the coolest, most useful trick that Premiere has that I've not seen in any other piece of software. But if every other piece of software would add this trick, it would make my life awesome. So awesomer. In this case, I'm going to hover over my Premiere project bin, and right above the Tab key, we've done a whole lot of Command tabbing, right? But directly above the Tab key is the tilde key. It's a funny little squiggle. If you tap that tilde key, what happens to the window that you've currently got your mouse hovering over? What's it do? It expands it up to fill the entire screen. When I'm trying to deal with a bunch of files, for example, these video files or this drone footage, it's really nice to be able to see them all on the screen. So having that tilde key be able to toggle up wherever your mouse is going to save you a ton of time being able to navigate and work with large stacks of files. Everybody seeing that okay? All right, so this will be really handy. Now, I would probably like to be able to look at some of these things not necessarily in this view. For example, if I'm looking for drone footage, I might go ahead and double click into this folder. Go ahead and double click into the drone footage folder. All right, so when we've double clicked into this drone footage folder, we can see some information about these files. For example, I can see, let's go ahead and tilde to throw it open, and we can see all of the information about these files right here. For example, some of these files, like these Fisk drone shots, are shot at 23.98 frames per second. It is a drop frame version of the standard for 24 frames per second. So 23.98. Some of them are shot at 29.97 frames per second, and some of them claim to be shot at 30 frames per second, even 30.02. That is a non-standard frame rate. So who knows exactly how that happened, but we also see how long the media is. So some of these are longer shots than others. We can see things like how big or what the dimensions are. We can sort them that way. So you see, for example, that most of these are in what we call 720p. I had them at 1080p last semester, but I found a lot of the people working on their computers at home struggled with things being fast enough. But you see, not all of them are. We've got at least this one Vanderbilt shot that's in 4K, and its dimensions are 3840 pixels by 2160 pixels, substantially larger than these others. And we can also see what the sample rate of the audio is. So we can see some good stuff about it, but I might also want to go ahead and switch this to icon view so that it can start to generate some of these different icons, as we might find that a more useful way of finding our files. So go ahead and switch into icon view on that, and that'd be useful too. I'll hit the tilde key to jump back, but the trick is, how do I get back to my main folder? How do I move back up? Well, when you look right here, you'll see that I'm in my 1450 last name, first name project, slash, and the slash on a computer always indicates what? Anyone know? The slash indicates that we are in a folder. So in other words, this is saying inside this project, slash, in the folder, capture scratch, slash, in the folder, drone footage. Make sense? So anytime we're seeing those slashes, it means we're in this new folder. So if you want to go up, back up a folder, you can simply click on this up arrow on the bin, and that takes us back up as many levels as we want until it gets you all the way back out to the top level. Go ahead and do the same. So if you dive into one of these, you can easily get down there. But I want to show you one other thing that people often do in Premiere that will make your life miserable, and that is they use this awesome search and filter box. Now there's actually two different things here, but the filter box, you'll see this filter bin content. And if you come in here, let's say that you're looking for, well, let's go all the way up, for example. So I'm going to go all the way back up and switch back to list view for a second. Go ahead and go all the way back up and switch to list view. Now, let's say I'm looking for drone shots, specifically of Tennessee State. I'm in the section of the video where we're talking about TSU, and that's what I'm looking for. So I can quickly come up to this filter bin, click in there and type TSU, and what are you going to see? Only files with TSU in them somehow. Super handy, quick way to not have to deal with thousands of files, and it means if you have already sorted or you've already named all of your files well before you brought them in, that it's going to be very quick and easy for you to find anything with TSU on it. Right? Everybody clear on that? Now here's the problem, and this bites people on the butt semi-regularly. I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Go ahead and click the X to cancel out the filter. And you'll see, even with my other folders toggled open, like Capture, Scratch, and Drone Footage, if I click into this filter bin, if I accidentally hit a space or put a space in here, go ahead and do that, what happens? What happened to all my footage? All of these, if I open them up, it looks like everything is gone. What's the clue? Well, there's two little clues. One, you can see that this little magnifying glass is now blue. That's showing you that, hey, there's something being searched for, so I'm only showing you those things that you're searching for. I put in a space, which is invisible, and as a result, it's filtering out anything that's not a space. You also can see the word filtered up here, which is actually, I think, a fairly recent addition, but that also helps me know, oh, wait a minute, I must be searching for something. Simply click the X, and that will remove your filters and show you all of your files again. Everybody still good? All right, that'll happen to you at some point, so I just wanted to go ahead and point that out. So we're going to go ahead and make a new sequence and we're going to save it with the correct name and start by building our project. So let's make a new sequence, and there's a couple ways we can do this. In this case, the capture scratch, the drone footage, all of these files are running at different frame rates. In the past, not even that distant past, this would have been a very much a no-no. You don't want to throw files with wildly different frame rates into the same session, because the session would not necessarily be able to accurately play them back at the right speeds or account for that problem. But what we're going to do is make a simple new sequence. So come down here to the lower right-hand corner, and you'll notice you've got a few icons that would apply to these projects. So search for things, find, create a new folder. So if I wanted to store things differently, I could click there and make a new folder, or what they call a bin. Then we have a new item. So if I click on that, you see we have options for things like adjustment layers, just like we learned about in Photoshop. We've got options for offline files, shortcuts, bars, tones, colors, but we're going to make a sequence. And in the sequence, you're going to notice that it creates a whole bunch of different options for you and says, okay, how do you want to like edit these? What kind of camera were you using? What was the frame rate and resolution? And so in our case, I've just gone ahead and said to use a sequence preset for the digital SLR, 720p, 24 frames per second. So I'm going to come to digital SLR, 720p for that resolution, and I'm going to do it for 24 frames per second. Now in this case, some of this footage is actually at 23.976. So it's possible we're going to need to just switch to this one. For now, since we have quite the range in there, I'm going to just stick with the 720p 24, and down here change the sequence name to what we already said. So the sequence name down here, 1450-last name-first name-project-2. Once I do that, I'm going to hit OK, and we should see our sequence get created right here. Yes, ma'am. It's the one down here next to, when you hover over it, it says new item. Yep, new item, and then when you click on it, it lets you choose these others. Everybody make the right size one? Got it good to go? Excellent. All right, now take note. Different items have different sort of icons. Look at the difference between this icon for our sequence and these icons for video and audio clips. Notice that this one has this tiny little film strip to show it has video, and a tiny little audio waveform to show it has audio. As you scroll through, some of them just have a video clip, but do they have an audio clip as well? No. So you see that some of them do, some of them don't. If you need to blow these up or down, you can click this little slider to make things taller or smaller. I'm okay with it down as far as it is. But this one shows a timeline with tracks and this little playhead right here that lets us store our tracks in it and build our video. All right, still good? Throw me a thumbs up if you're ready to keep moving. All right, we've imported this. And the next step, it says we're going to choose a piece of music and add it to the audio track. For now, here's what we want to do. Let's take a little time to get comfortable navigating around in Premiere, moving clips around, editing clips, learning some of the key shortcuts. In order to do that, we need to come over to our Capture Scratch. I'm going to find one of these pieces of drone footage. Let's come down, and I'm going to find one. Actually, I'll just filter. Let's search for one and look for Belmont options. So use your filter, and I'm just going to find any of these Belmont clips, and I'm going to double click it. I'll use this one, Belmont Drone 6. Everybody there? Awesome. So this loads this clip up into the source monitor. The source monitor, when I hit play now, you notice the space bar will play and stop your footage. So when I hit play, it's going to play back whatever window is selected. In this case, since that Shift 2 brings us to the source footage, we can see it playing back. Go ahead and do that. Practice starting and stopping. All right. Now that we've got that, let's learn some basic navigation. To play, fast forward, and rewind, we can use a simple 3-key shortcut that people have used since the beginning of video editing in a computer. And that's what they call JKL-IO editing. So if you look down at your keyboard, you'll see J, K, and L all comfortably right next to one another, and I and O right above them. So if you hit the K key, K is typically pause. Hard to see what it's doing since you're not playing right now. The space bar with your thumb will start and stop playback. K will pause it, and of course, space bar will play anyway. I typically never use K, I just use the space bar to start and stop playback. J, on the other hand, if you tap it once, will rewind at regular speed. Tap it again and it rewinds faster, and again it rewinds even faster. L does the opposite. Plays us forward, again faster, again even faster. Practice both of those. The up and down arrow keys typically navigate us through the front and the back of a clip. So to the front of a clip, or the back of a clip. What we call the top of the clip or the tail of the clip. Okay, so the up and down arrow keys, quick and easy way to jump back and forth between them. This will also work on the timeline. These up and down arrow keys will move us to the edges of the next clip. But now that we've got the gist of that, let's look at how we put them into our timeline. So our timeline has this series of video and audio buttons right here. Does everybody see those? So these video and audio buttons determine what track, when we use a shortcut to send our source to our timeline, this video target layer, or this what we call a source patch, is going to determine which one it goes to. Now we've got a couple different options to do that. One is what they call an insert edit, and the next is an overwrite edit. So you see this insert edit, what's the shortcut that it shows you right there next to the word insert? The shortcut to do an insert is what? Comma. And the shortcut to do an overwrite is what? Period. So they're right there next to one another. They really have kept everything in nice and handy. So here's what we're going to do. Let's just practice a little bit with this. Let's say I want to put down this clip starting at about 3 seconds, and I only am going to put in a couple seconds of it. So hit play and or let it go until it's about 2.5, 3 seconds in. You can also use the left and right arrow keys to move by frames. Can you see that? Now by frames, I point this out because the time code here in the corner shows that right now we're at 0 hours, 00 minutes, 2 seconds, and 26 frames. How many frames will be in this piece of video? In other words, this number will go up, up, up until what number? Well, you can tell by looking down here at the frame rate. We loaded this clip in, and it's how many frames? Yep, 29.97 or 30 frames per second. And so when I go left and right, I get all the way up to 29, and then it cycles back over to 30 or to 0. Okay? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc., and then it'll cycle back around. If it was 24 frames a second, it would get up to 23 and cycle back around. All right, so get in here and go ahead and hit the I key. The I key is going to set an in point, and that's how we can tell Premiere, hey, when I put this thing into my timeline, start it from right here. A lot of people, if you've done any video editing, are used to just throwing everything onto the timeline and then just trimming off stuff. And that's not wrong, it's just one way that you might do it. This also has advantages that you'll find, but you have to know it even exists as a way of editing. So now I've got this, let me go ahead and play, and I'm gonna set an out point at some point. I can even just sit there and tap it while it plays until, right there as that lens flare happens. That's where I want my out. Go ahead and do the same thing, just set an out point on your source. And now finally, let's go ahead and put it into the timeline. Now, either one, insert, we'll insert it, overwrite, they both look pretty much the same right now. So let me show you why they're not. I'm gonna stick another couple of clips just kind of over here just for kicks. Okay, now watch what happens. If we do an insert edit, what happened to the other clips? What happened? It moved the clip from the in point and the out point. It put it down on the track with the source patch. But what happened to the other clips? Do you see what happens to them?
They like overlapping each other?
No. So I just did an insert. Here they are right here. Watch where they are on the timeline. When I put the insert, it put it in. And what happened to all the ones that came after it? What do you see physically happen? Jordan?
Looks like it's adding the at the beginning.
Do you see it moving them over? Does everybody see this? Why is nobody saying that then? It's like it's moved the clips over. That's it. It's not magic. What it's doing is when you do an insert, you're saying, hey, put this clip down here in the timeline, but don't erase anything. Just scoot the stuff over afterwards. So it's inserting it into the middle. You could think about it like if back in the days of editing on tape, if you took something and you wanted to put it in the middle of a program, you don't want to erase over that chunk. You wanted to stick it in and then move all the stuff later. So an insert will do that. But if I did it right here, for example, and I insert now, notice it dropped my new clip in, starting from those in and out points, but then it just pushed everything else over to get it out of the way. What if I had done instead an overwrite with the period key? What's the only difference? It overwrites it, but it did not push it over. It just wrote it straight over the top of that footage. Does that make sense, the difference between an insert and overwrite? Okay, so let's go ahead and just throw one piece in. It doesn't matter which one since this is the first clip, but I'm gonna go to the home screen and just go ahead and insert a clip into our timeline. Now we need to be able to navigate our timeline very, very quickly. So we need a few shortcuts under our belt for navigating it. The first one is simply to zoom in to our footage and to zoom out. The plus and minus keys on the top of your keyboard next to the 0 will zoom you in closer and closer, and you'll see the time code up above it get closer and closer. Right now, for example, here's 6 seconds, 6 seconds and 12 frames, 7 seconds. If I hit the plus again, I go even closer. 6 seconds, 6 seconds and 6 frames, 12 frames, 18 frames, and you can get closer and closer and closer. Okay, so that'll zoom you in. The minus key will zoom you out. Be aware when you zoom way out, it's entirely possible for these clips to get so small that you might not even be able to see them. So zoom in, zoom out, no problem. Now, keep your left thumb on the left command key because we've got a few other things we can do. If we hold the shift key down and we use plus and minus, so shift plus and minus does what? Yeah, it gives us a bigger thumbnail view of the clips. If we had audio, we'd see a bigger view of the audio clips, etc. So shift plus and minus does that. If we add the command key, so command plus and minus will give us even more options, making that video track taller, really a lot taller and a lot shorter. Although I find for the most part, shift plus and minus does a pretty good job of giving me a thumbnail that I can use. That's about all I need. But command plus and minus you might use when we're trying to really see more clips easily. Try alt plus and minus. So switch to alt plus and minus, and that affects which tracks? Just my audio tracks. So that will make them taller or shorter depending on if I need to see them. All right. Everybody okay so far? Let's run through the tools. Yes, sir, Jordan.
How did you get the clip
From the source monitor?
Yes.
Yep, so with it up there, we did either an overwrite or an insert edit. So, and either one, remember, so the only difference, so it's either period or comma. So the period key will just drop it in at the playhead and it overwrote whatever was already there. So make sure you've got your source monitor and then just hit the period key. And you should see it drop down. Make sure your source is selected. Oh, you don't have to do that. There we go. Yep. Yep, it's all good. It is something to where, just so everybody knows, Jordan had accidentally turned off his source patching, and so now it didn't know where to put it. It didn't know what track. Go ahead and try it on a different track. Put it up here on the second one, then do an overwrite, and you'll notice it just patches it right there on that second track. Simple? All right. So go ahead and put one in, and let's do some quick editing with this. so we can then start manipulating and building our video. Let's see what happens with these. First, you've got this tools. Let's look at our tools and make sure we're clear on the tools real quick. So this tool lets us click and drag and move things around. So you can simply click and drag to edit your clip into place. When you hover over the left or right side, you get a trim tool, which will let you trim and show or hide more of that clip. So even though I dropped it in with the in points and out points selected, I can continue to manipulate it. I can move it up to another track, click on it, and move it up and down to another track. If I hover over this little line right here, this line on a video clip represents its opacity. So for example, right now, when I'm playing this, if I just pull this opacity down, you'll notice that it is now darker. If I pull it up halfway, it looks like it's darker, but it's actually showing through to the black underneath. How would that be useful? Well, if I wanted, for example, let me put this up here and just throw a second drone shot underneath it. Notice when we play back, it's going to play whichever the top clip is. So initially, we're going to see this drone shot of the prayer tower, and then it will cut to this shot, and when that shot goes away, it cuts back. But if we were to adjust the opacity down to 50%, we see the prayer tower and a 50% transparent image over the top, and then back to what was underneath. So that is what happens when you adjust that opacity thing. So if you accidentally think, man, my footage is too dark, you might have just grabbed your opacity layer and pulled that down. Everybody okay so far? All right, couple things about this. Look at these three options that change the way the timeline works for you. With this turned on, insert and overwrite sequences as nests or individual clips. We're just going to leave that on for now. Snap in timeline determines if you're clicking and dragging something around. Notice when you get close, for example, to this playhead on the right-hand side, as I drag, when I get close enough, it'll just snap. And you'll see that little line pop up. Same if I'm trying to put something here on the end, it snaps to the playhead, it snaps to the edges of clips. So you typically want snapping on, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you want to be able to put this like somewhere between these, maybe right here, but I'm too close to the playhead so it keeps snapping. So I could simply hit what shortcut key to turn off snap. What's it say? Snap in timeline is S. So if I turn that off, now I can move it and it ignores anything around it. It doesn't try to snap. And then finally we have what is called linked selection. Now these drone clips, if I look at them, they have only a video icon. Do you see any audio icon with them? No, so they didn't have any audio with them. If I came up and I looked for some that did, cancel out this Belmont and put in like this Vanderbilt clip, when I go to drag it in, you'll notice, dragging it in, why is there no audio? Because I don't have the audio patched. I have to have this patch set so that it knows which track to put the audio on. So if I put it down there on that one, and I drag in this Vanderbilt drone, you notice it patches that audio down there. If I had put it here, Vanderbilt drone, it patches it to A1. Make sense? So for most of this stuff, I'm not worried about this right now. Let's zoom in a little bit more and let's do a couple more of these tools. I'm just going to throw a few of these in. Go ahead and just stack several different clips, kind of one after the other on the timeline, just so we have a few in here, and let's learn a few other things. Go grab a few clips and just plop them in back to back on the timeline. Everybody getting that done okay? All right. Just double check my notes. All right. So to move between clips on the timeline, so you'll notice sometimes it's faster to use J, K, and L. So you can J, K, and L move around the timeline, but most of the time you're going to use the up and down arrow keys. Up and down arrow will toggle you to the next selected edit on that clip. and it'll do it for whichever track has this video 1 turned on. So if I turn this video 1 off, you'll notice it's behaving a little more erratically. It's not stopping, for example, at this clip edge. And if I switch to something different, it's really ignoring it. So I'm going to turn this back on. Typically, though, up and down arrow is going to get you where you want to go. The home key will take you back to the beginning. So the home key on your keyboard will take you to the beginning of your edit. Go ahead and do it. Practice it. The end key will take you to the end. If you're on a laptop, you might be missing a home key and an end key. How many of you guys at home are missing home and end keys? Hold the function key down in the lower left-hand corner of your MacBook, and the left arrow, function left arrow, will be home, function right arrow will be the end. Those function works for you? Sweet. All right, let's look at these last few tips. For this track selection, let's just go down this row. Track selection forward, if we turn that on, let's say I want to select all the clips to the right. I can simply click now, and you notice it selects, by highlighting with white on the outside, all of the clips here. Then I can simply click and drag all of those clips together. What if I wanted to select all the clips to the left? Well, you'll notice, just like in Photoshop, in the lower right-hand corner of these tools, what do they have? A little arrow indicating that there's more versions of that tool underneath. So you can click and hold down and you see, aha, there is track select backward, or the shortcut is what? What's that arrow mean? Shift, right? So Shift A gives us track select back. So there we could easily click and select both of those, or if I just click here, it selects anything back, but not that one, okay? So A turns me around, grab, and I can pull this back to close the gap. All right, let's look at these last couple of tools. What if I click on Ripple Edit tool? If I click on that, I see I've actually got multiple tools: Ripple Edit, Rolling Edit, and Rate Stretch. We'll look at all these later, but let's just see them real quick so that we know what sort of things exist. When I click on Ripple Edit tool, now notice that if I come right here, and let's say I want this Vanderbilt shot to be shorter. If I was still on my standard trim tool, if I trim this back, it's just going to leave a big gap there. But in editing, we a lot of times use what we call a ripple edit. In other words, if I want to trim this part back, I don't want to leave a gap. If I want to ripple edit, I want everything to ripple back and fill in the gap. So when I use the ripple edit and let go, it automatically closes the gap and moves everything to the left to fill it in. Much better. If I were to do the opposite and trim on this side, again, it trims everything back to fill in the gap. Ripple edit, super useful. Rolling edit, go switch to your rolling edit tool. In this case, it's not going to let me change too much. Okay, right here it will. The rolling edit tool is useful when you've got an edit, for example, right here, and it cuts to this other shot of this coming down. But maybe I say, you know what, I like that, but I really wish that this previous clip went on a little bit longer and this clip started a little bit later. Well, in order to do that with the rate stretch or the irregular tool, we'd come in here, we'd trim this closed, we'd grab this one, we'd trim it out, and it turns into 3 steps just to be able to do that one step. The rolling edit tool, on the other hand, lets me simply click and drag it, and it moves both the out point of this clip and the in point of that clip at the same time. So it lets me just roll that edit over. We'll use that a lot when we're working in video. So I just want you to know these things exist. Last few tools that we'll use commonly, you've got the razor tool. It's accessed with C, and that simply lets you add an edit at any point. So the C key will switch to my razor to cut, and the V key lets me switch back to my clip to select and edit those. The rest of these we will get to when we talk about graphics and titles and stuff like that, but really all of these should be good to go. Everybody okay on this so far? All right, so we've got our clips. We're feeling pretty good. We've been able to do some navigation, and now let's see if I'm missing anything. Home, select, and delete, shift, shift, up, down, left, right, etc. All right, we'll work on the rest of these as we get through. All right, so let's see. Let's go ahead and start building our project. I'm going to come over here, use the V key to switch back, and I'm going to go ahead and select all the clips on the timeline, Command A, and I should see them all get selected. And let's go ahead and hit the delete key so that there's no more clips on our timeline. All right, we good? All right, next, let's start to tackle the project. So we have imported the folders and footage into Premiere and created a new sequence. We've got that ready to go. Choose a piece of music in the Essential Sound panel that fits their description and add it to the audio track. So there's a couple different ways we could do this, but I'm going to come over here into my audio sources and look at these music options. I'm going to double click on some and see if any of them look more interesting to me. Not bad. How about this one? Interesting. Whoa, that's dark. All right, I'm gonna grab Upbeat Corporate, and I'm gonna go ahead and you can either drag it and drop it here into this timeline, or since it's already loaded up here into my timeline up here, I can simply hit the period key to overwrite it down in, and I wanna go ahead and delete this space. So I'm gonna click in this gap and hit the delete key, and that will go ahead and move that audio back to the beginning. Do the same. Then I'm going to hit Shift plus so that this audio is nice and tall and I can kind of see it more easily. And I know that this clip is supposed to be no longer than a minute. So I'm actually going to come over here to about 1 minute, or even just click here into the time. And I'm just going to click and type 1, period, period, enter. And that's going to take me to 1 minute. And I can do that because this time code shows me the hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So if I wanted to go to a specific time, like 1 minute and 30 seconds, I could click in here and type 1:30 period, which basically changes it to the frames. Actually, 1:30 period 0. It's going to take me right where I want. Most of the time, you might just prefer to use your mouse. There's a bunch of ways to navigate. But I'm going to go to 1 minute, period, and I want to put a marker by hitting the M key, and that way I've kind of got a visual reminder of how long this really should go. Don't want it to be a whole lot longer. Now I'm going to come back over here and just trim it back. All right. Now let's go ahead and add our voiceover. The voiceover is going to give us some clarity on where things need to happen in our session. Now, let's go ahead and do this. We, of course, just click and drag it down to this second audio layer, but let's do it the other way. I'm going to click here on the A1 so it's patched to this second audio layer. I'm going to, ooh, you know what? Actually, I'd like to have my music down lower. No, let's leave the music where it is. It doesn't matter. We can move them later. I'm going to double click to load my voiceover up here, and let's listen to this.
With performance from Tennessee State University.
Pretty quiet, but if I'm patched down here to A1, I can simply do go back to the beginning here and do an overwrite, and that overwrite's going to place it right here into our audio. Make sure you're patched to the correct track. Everybody in there? All right. So we've got a piece of music that we've picked. We've added it to the audio track. We've placed the voiceover in a different audio track. And we're going to process it with the Essential Sound panel to make it sound nice and focused and punchy. So we want to keep the audio level at around -18 dB. We don't want it to distort. And we'll need to edit it a little bit to make the words flow with the music. So first, we need to make this thing a little more punchy. Let's go ahead and pop up to the audio workspace. Click over here into the audio workspace up at the top. Anybody there? Now, the beauty of the Essential Sound panel is that it's going to let us, really Adobe has kind of optimized these features, not for music production, but for video production. So we're going to tag both of these pieces of media. I'm going to click on the this media panel here with the music mix. I'm going to come over and I'm going to tag this as music. So by clicking on music, now it has been tagged as a music clip. Go ahead and do the same. Then I'm going to click on my audio clip that is my dialogue, the voiceover, and I'm going to come up and I'm going to tag that as dialogue. Got it? Yes. So are you do you see your essential sound panel? Okay, so I simply select the music. Let me clear the audio type. If you accidentally did the wrong one, I can clear it. It'll just show you, you'll either see two things: browse, where you can find stock music, or edit, which lets you edit specific pieces of audio. So I'm going to click dialogue. Nope. See, for example, that was supposed to be music. I'm going to clear that out and do music. Got it? All right. So now we can go through and let's look at each of these options here underneath these different manual options. I'm going to click to loudness first. If these are all toggled open, just go ahead and click on the word to toggle them closed and then switch to loudness. With loudness, you've got this auto match. Auto match, when you click it, is going to auto match the target loudness of -25 loudness units full scale, -25 LUFS. If I hit reset, you see that that's how loud the music was originally, but the music is clipping like crazy. See it distorting here? Way too loud. So that would mean there was no more room in the audio spectrum to put a voiceover or anything else. So it's very common for people to mix music like that, but we need to bring it way down. So I'm going to select that, choose auto match, and you'll notice the waveforms get a lot quieter, a lot smaller. Nice. Now that might be all I need to do with this for right now. We're not going to really change its duration. We just kind of have trimmed this off, but now we've got our dialogue track. Let's go to our dialogue track and do the same thing. Click on the dialogue. I'm going to close all of these other options up. I'm going to come to the loudness first. Go ahead and choose auto match, and that's going to auto match it to a target loudness of -23 loudness units. Let's see if that makes a difference.
Welcome to Rock the Vote at Belmont University, where Nashville
Definitely
colleges
better.
are uniting to celebrate.
Now, there's other things we can do to that, but even for now, we've got a fairly decent sounding track. Now, repair we could use if this had a whole bunch of issues. And I could come over here and looking at the front of the audio track, I could mute this if I wanted to temporarily mute this and just focus on the audio for this track.
Celebrate democracy.
Or, of course, I could have soloed it, and when I click solo, that mutes every other audio track.
With
So that you're
performance
only
from
hearing the one. Go ahead and do the same.
Tennessee State University.
All right. For now, let's leave everything else alone there and go back to our editing workspace so we can start to edit. So the first thing I can tell you right now is that listening to this, I don't want the dialogue
Welcome to Rock the Vote
to happen before the music is even fully queued up. So I'm going to just go ahead and drag this dialogue over just a little bit and maybe try to let it happen musically.
Welcome to Rock the Vote.
So it could work. I might move it a little earlier.
Welcome to Rock.
I might even move it a little earlier than that. I'm going to turn off snap with my S key.
Welcome to Rock the Vote at Belmont University.
Right. Okay, so here's what we need to do. We're going to end up editing these video clips to the beat of the music, cutting on action and editing it to where it fits in time with the music. That's not something one has to do every single time, but for projects like this, it makes a lot of sense because it really helps drive the song. But this dialogue was cut or recorded without any music. They were not following or trying to stay on a specific tempo. So what we want to do first is go through and see if we can dial this in. And we're going to cut the lines up and move it around so that they time out okay musically. So for example, if I zoom in here with the plus key and I hit play, I'm going to hit my up arrow to jump back to the beginning.
Welcome to Rock the Vote at Belmont University, where Nashville colleges are uniting to celebrate democracy. With performance.
Okay, so I kind of want to, I'm just sitting there counting 1, 2, 3, 4 with the music, and I kind of want these lines to start at the beginning of a 4 beat. So listening to this, it is...
Welcome to Rock the Vote at Belmont University, where Nashville
1, 2,
colleges are
3,
uniting
4,
to celebrate
2,
democracy.
3, 4,
With performers
4.
from
So right there is where I see that fourth count happening.
colleges are uniting to celebrate
A
democracy.
lot of times what I'll do is even mark it with my M key so I can just do it while it's playing. So listen for that downbeat.
Where Nashville colleges are
3,
uniting
4,
to celebrate
2,
democracy.
3, 4,
With performers
M,
from
2.
Tennessee State University.
Okay, and you see it drop this marker right there. So what I want to do is I'm going to come to this. I want to switch to what tool to be able to cut this. Razor tool, which is the letter was C. I just call it the cut tool because then I remember it's C. And I'm just going to cut here in the silence. Switch back to my V tool and move this line over so that it starts with that downbeat. Let's see if that's better.
Where Nashville colleges are uniting to celebrate democracy. With performers from Tennessee State University, spoken word artist Summer Jade, from Middleton.
And here they're kind of cutting too fast. I'm going to switch back to cut it, and look for that next downbeat.
Spoken word artist Summer Jade, from Middle Tennessee State University.
And maybe put it over a little ways.
Spoken word artist Summer Jade, from Middle Tennessee State University. Shelter Cove, from Fisk.
Same thing. So I'm just going to come through here and chop these up, switch over and try to find them and locate them to a beat.
Shelter Cove, from Fisk University.
And make them fit a little bit.
Shelter Cove, from Fisk University. R&B singer-songwriter Lauren McClinton.
Etc. So go through and get that edited. Come back next time and we will start dropping in our videos and building the rest of the video from there now that you've got a strong understanding of how Premiere works. We'll see you next time. Come back and have it opened up with the audio already edited. I believe the homework says through section 3. So section 3, you need to have gotten to that point, and you'll upload a screenshot of project 2 finished through section 3. So that section 3 is choosing this piece of music, and actually so it'll be through section 4 finishing that voiceover. All right. Come back next time. We'll see you then. Thank you. See you later.
From Vanderbilt University, a cappella group The Melodors, and student performer from Belmont University, Indy Russo, and Belmont alumni performances from special guest Bren Joy and headliners Moontag.
I'm going to stop the recording and